Hi everybody, this is Joe from PrepAgent. I hope you're having a good day. If you could hear me, give me a thumbs up. And we will get started. Okay, how's it going, Shane? How's it going, everybody? Darlene, don't be sleepy. It's very exciting. We're doing contracts today, everybody's favorite. All right, so we got contracts. Exciting stuff. So who can tell me the 4 essentials of a valid contract? Go, let's start with this. The 4 essentials of a valid contract. Who can tell me that? What are the 4 essentials of a valid contract? What do you guys think? Gretz, I see, I'm not sure if you're saying number 1 or you're just angry at me. I see that emoji with that finger. Oh, is that the other finger? It's not the middle finger. Okay. Okay, so the 4 essentials of a valid contract. Excuse me. Capable parties, mutual consent, lawful object, and consideration. Capable parties, mutual consent, lawful object, and consideration. All right, here we go. Mutual consent, lawful object, capable parties, and consideration. When is mutual consent mutual consent? Oh, good, Gretch. Trying to show a thumbs up. Cool. Okay, when is mutual consent, excuse me, guys, considered mutual consent? What do you need to happen for that to occur? Oh, come on, guys. I see people writing when both parties agree. We need more than that. Offer and acceptance. I'm still waiting for that correct answer. Don't let me down on Friday, everybody. Don't let me down. Offer and acceptance in writing. Oh, nobody's got the right answer here. For mutual consent to be mutual consent, you need a 3-step process. Offer, acceptance, and communicate back the acceptance. Offer or makes offer, offer E accepts offer, and you need to communicate back that acceptance. Nice job, Marta Grissom. How many guys are like, oh, I knew that. I totally should have known that. Offer, acceptance, and communicate back that acceptance. Okay? For example, if I make an offer on your house and you accept that offer and I don't hear from you and I don't know you accept it, what might I do? I may go make an offer on another house, right? Because I never heard from you. So you're sitting here thinking everything's great and you're moving right along, but I'm none the wiser because you never communicated back that acceptance. How many guys are thinking like, oh, that's so obvious, overly obvious? Right, guys? Okay, so you got that mutual consent there. Good. So you have offer and acceptance, mutual consent, consideration, capable parties. What is consideration? What is consideration? What is consideration? What do you guys think? What is consideration? Anything to be considered a value. Is money consideration? Can money be consideration? What do you guys think? Can money be considered consideration? What do you guys think? Yes, money can be considered consideration. That's your most typical consideration. I noticed some of you wrote a kiss can be considered consideration. And what you're referring to is love and affection to be considered consideration. So consideration is just anything of value. Good job, everybody. I see some of you writing an earnest money deposit, also known as a good faith deposit. That's more specific. Considerations a much more general term than that. But since that coming up, what is that good faith deposit? It is related to contracts. We are doing contracts today. So what is a good faith deposit, also known as an earnest money deposit? What is that? What do you guys think is the good faith deposit, also known as the earnest money deposit? So Valerie writes a ring to proposal. I know where you're going with this, Valerie. What Valerie is going with that ring proposal is if I see you, so let's take Valerie for example, since she mentioned it. If I say, Valerie, will you marry me, right? She'd look at me and be like, Joe, you're crazy. We just met. I don't even really know you. You're give lessons over the internet. We've never even really met in person. That'd be crazy, right? She would not think I'm serious. But if I say, Valerie, will you marry me? And I have a $15,000 ring in my hand, then she'll look at me and say, oh my God, he's serious. Right, guys? Why? Because I have evidence to show that I'm serious. All right? Now, Valerie and I are engaged and we're bumping along perfectly happy. Everybody's happy as can be. And then during the engagement, I am a bad fiance. I do bad things. I break the relationship. I'm not faithful, all that kind of stuff. What happens to that ring? Okay, what happens to that ring? Is Valerie going to give it back? Good luck on that one. Okay, it's more than likely gone. Now, obviously in marriages, work it out as you will, but typically it's gone. Okay, because I did not hold up my end of the bargain. Okay, now if I am a good fiance, I'm faithful, and we have a good relationship and everything's going well, we will go to the altar and we will say, I do, and guess what just happened at that point? Escrow closed. All right, escrow closed. You guys get the idea? So that engagement period is like the escrow period. Okay? Now, I know it's not very romantic to call an engagement ring a deposit, but actually that's the history of it. If you guys want to look at the histories of the engagement ring, it's not a very romantic history. It was kind of like putting a deposit down. That was when people exchanged goats and cows and things of that nature. I'm not an expert on it. But as much as people love exchanging jewelry to show love and affection, it actually has a less than romantic history. It's a deposit. Okay, so that good faith deposit, earnest money deposit, functions the same way. It shows that you are serious about your offer. And if during that escrow period, that engagement period, something doesn't go right, such as an inspection doesn't go through, an appraisal, or you don't hold up your end of the deal with a loan, whatever it may be, that deposit can be lost. Now, is that deposit the same as a down payment? This often gets confused. Is that deposit the same as a down payment? What do you guys think? Is that deposit the same as a down payment? That's right, Trish. You could back out, but you lose a deposit, just like the engagement ring. Okay, no, it is not. Can that deposit go towards the down payment? Can that deposit go towards that down payment? What do you guys think? Can that deposit go towards the down payment? Yes. Okay, just so we're clear, it's all what is agreed upon. Now, you have perfectly right. Let's say the house is 100 grand, you put 20% down, which is 20,000, and you put a 3,000 deposit down. They could give you back the 3,000 and you just write a check for 20 grand for the down payment, start fresh, or you could put the 3 grand towards it, then put the other 17 grand as the down payment, etc., etc., etc. You guys get the idea. Whatever's agreed upon. But they're separate entities, and that's my point that I want to get across to you guys. And as we discussed, how do you know if that's agreed upon? Because the offer is communicated, and it's communicated back to the offeror that they're okay. All right, good job, everybody. So that's a big part of contracts, what we just went over. You got the consideration, lawful object, capable parties, and consideration. Mutual consent, consideration, capable parties, lawful object. Excuse me. What do they mean by lawful object? What do they mean by lawful object? What do you guys think? What do they mean by lawful object? Okay, so lawful object means it must be legal in its nature, right, everybody? So, much to the chagrin of every James Bond lover, a contract to kill is really no contract at all, okay? Because you can't hire somebody to kill somebody and they kill them and then be like, oh my God, they didn't pay me. Judge, he owes me. I got it notarized. We got a document. There's offer and acceptance. You know, it's totally messed up. They're not paying me. Okay? Actually, James Bond's not a contract to kill. It's a license to kill, right? Where's my James Bond people? Actually, it's a license to kill, right? Anyways, you guys get the idea. It can't be illegal in nature. It must be legal. And by the way, just so you guys know, this is not real estate stuff. This is general contract stuff of which real estate falls under. So this is contract law. So this applies to any type of contract we're talking about. All right, good job, everybody. And obviously, capable parties is they must be over 18 and a sound mind unless they're emancipated, which is a whole different deal. Okay, let's look at the question on the board. The transferee in an assignment of a lease is called the A, assignor, B, assignee, C, sublessee, or D, sublessor. What do you guys think? And the answer is B, assignee. Who could tell me my OREE rule? Who could tell me my OREE rule? OREE rule, OR is the giver, EE receives, lessor, vendor, optionor is the giver, proprietor, for your pleasure. EE, lessee, vendee, grantee, optionee gives me property, makes me happy. I know it sounds ridiculous. We all agree it sounds ridiculous. But when you're taking your test and you're like, lessor, vendor, giver, and you pass, you'll be thrilled. Right, guys? As ridiculous as it sounds. How many of you guys got that little thing stuck in your head? Lessor, vendor, optionor, grantor, giver, proprietor, for your pleasure. Lessee, vendee, grantee, optionee gives me property, which makes me happy. It totally sounds absurd. Now, some people say there's an exception to the rule, which drives me crazy because there is no exception to the rule. It's a suffix. We learned this in elementary school. There's no exception. And the exception they always talk about is, what about a mortgagor or mortgagee? What about a mortgagor or mortgagee? That's my voice I hear when people say stuff that's annoying. That's kind of how I hear it. And we all have that voice. So why do they say a mortgagor and a mortgagee is an exception to the rule? One, because they don't know what a suffix is. And two, they don't understand that it's not about the money. It's about the promissory note, okay? The mortgagor is giving that promissory note, which functions as evidence of the debt. The mortgagee receives that promissory note, okay, and once they receive that, then money starts getting transferred and given and all that kind of stuff. But nobody's giving you any money until you receive some form of collateral or some form of promissory note. Does that make sense, guys? So when they say it's an exception to the rule, they don't understand that nobody's giving you money until that promissory note is given first. Everybody get that? We all know the promissory note is the evidence of the debt. So there's no exceptions to the OREE rule. Everybody got that? Who's had a teacher say there's an exception to the rule? Or had other students say there's an exception to the rule, to the OREE rule? Anybody ever heard a teacher do that? If you ever hear a teacher do that, tell them to watch a webinar before they ever teach again. It's not. Sometimes you guys could trust another teacher, trust me, go with whatever he thinks is more wise about this subject. But in this particular subject, I said we're just talking about suffix. We're talking about English language. I totally agree, Rachel. Fire them. So some concepts do get a little tricky, but this one's pretty clear, pretty straightforward. Okay. So another thing I want to go over, since we're doing contracts, is the types of leases. Okay? When we do property ownership, we talk about the less than freehold estates, which are estate for years, periodic tenancy, estate at will, and estate at sufferance. Okay? That we go over when we talk about property ownership. When we talk about contracts, we're talking about the type of lease agreements. Okay, and I hope you guys don't mind me lecturing. You guys know I like to do this once in a while. Is I like to kind of put the basic fundamental things in perspective for everybody. I feel like it's something I could offer that you guys cannot do on your own. Okay, so what are the different types of leases that we learn when we're studying for the real estate exam? What are the different types of leases that we learn when we are studying for the real estate exam? What do you guys think? What do you guys think? All right, so you got a gross lease. You have a net lease. You have a percentage lease. And you have a sandwich lease. Okay, everybody write those down. Okay, so I see a bunch of getting confused. Lease with an option is a different deal. Okay, that has to do with more purchasing property, but it doesn't have to do with the lease agreement specifically. So in other words, you could have a lease with an option to buy that's also a gross lease or something of that nature. Okay, so gross lease, percentage lease, net lease, and sandwich lease. In case you guys are wondering what a sandwich lease and you think that sounds ridiculous, you may have heard it as subletting. Okay, so that'd be subletting. If you guys are confused and be like, what's this sandwich thing all about? More commonly, you may have heard it as subletting. All right, how many of you guys are like, oh, okay, that makes more sense? Okay, what is the most common type of lease with a residential property? So in your average residential property, and obviously there's exceptions to the rule, okay, what is the most common type of lease agreement out of those four? Okay, the answer would be a gross lease. So what is a gross lease? What is a gross lease? What do you guys think is a gross lease? So that's when you pay a set amount every single month. That's when you pay a set amount every single month. Okay? And it's in your typical lease, you may say, I pay $1,000 every month, and you move on with your life. A net lease is what? It's also known as a triple net lease, if you guys want a little hint. Very often referred to as a triple net lease. So what is a net lease? So a net lease is when you are paying tax, insurance, and maintenance. Okay, tax, insurance, and maintenance. All right, tax, insurance, and maintenance. More common with a commercial lease. Obviously, you don't deal with taxes when you deal with your standard residential lease. A percentage lease is kind of what it says in the name. You're paying based upon a percentage of the money coming in. A percentage of the gross receipts. Right, everybody? That's a percentage lease. In a sandwich lease, also known as a subletting, I would like you guys to define it, subletting, using the OREE rule, okay? So a lot of you guys know the song, but let's see if you actually can apply it. So tell me what a sublet is using the OREE rule. Who could do that? Who could define subletting using the OREE rule that we went over, 5 minutes ago or 10 minutes ago, however long it was? What do you guys think? Nice job, Desert Ranch Girl. She wrote the lessor becomes the lessee. The lessor becomes the lessee. Or you could have wrote the lessee becomes the lessor. All right? Has everybody got that? Okay, so the lessee is also the lessor. That's what I was looking for. The lessee is also the lessor. Okay? Has everybody got it? Because you are a tenant of somebody and you're renting it out to somebody else. So the lessee is also the lessor. Okay, good job, everybody. Okay, let's look at the question on the board. When a counteroffer is made, A, the original offer becomes a unilateral offer. B, the original offer cannot amend his terms. C, it is considered a partial acceptance of the original offer. Or D, the offeree becomes the offeror. When a counteroffer is made, the answer is D, the offeree becomes the offeror. And I chose this question because it relates exactly to what we just did with that subletting. It's that OREE rule again. The offeree becomes the offeror. And what that means is when you make an offer and somebody gives you a counteroffer, they're not modifying your offer. They're actually giving you a brand new offer. Does that make sense? So then the offeree becomes the offeror. So I offer you $500,000 for your house, and you say, no, I am terminating your offer, and I'll offer you my house for your $550,000. Does everybody get that? Okay, so you got to know it's a brand new offer. The duration of a listing agreement is A, whatever is negotiated between the broker and the seller. B, 90 days. C, whatever is negotiated between the agent and the seller. Or D, 3 months. What do you guys think? And the answer is whatever is negotiated between the broker and the seller. Good job, everybody. When you have a contract, you very often hear the term void, voidable, and valid. What is the difference between valid, voidable, and void? What do you guys think? So when you have a contract, you hear these terms valid, voidable, and void. What is the difference? So a valid contract, all right, would have all 4 essential elements. Right, everybody? A valid contract has all 4 of the essential elements: mutual consent, consideration, lawful object, capable parties. A void contract is any contract that's lacking one of those 4 essential elements. So this all goes back to that 4 essential elements that we talked about when we started the webinar. Has everybody got it? So a void contract is any contract that lacks one of those 4 elements. Okay? Mutual consent, consideration, lawful object, capable parties. A voidable contract has those 4 elements, but for one reason or another, it could be rescinded. Like if you're put under duress, where you're threatened, where you're forced to sign the contract you don't want to, or when you sign to buy a red house and the house is actually blue, you have the option to go through with it. Why is it not void? Because you may like the blue house. You may like the red house. You should have the choice to go through with it. If somebody's threatening you, that shouldn't stop you from buying if you actually wanted to buy in the first place. If I'm sitting here saying, buy it, I'm going to beat you up if you don't buy it. You have the right to say, relax, psycho, I was going to buy it anyway. Me being crazy should not stop your ability to buy the house. So that is why it's voidable and not void, because in those situations, you should have the right to go through with it if you want. Whereas with a void contract, you do not have the right to go through with it. Everybody got that? Okay, who's ready for a difficult question? Who's ready for a tough question? You guys ready? Right, ready. It's Friday and I'm ready to be challenged. Okay, so you have a contract that needs to be in writing, but it's not. What is that status of that contract? So you have a contract that should be in writing, but it's not. What is the status of that contract? Valerie Worthen, nice job. She wrote unenforceable. Great. Totally proud of you guys who wrote that. It's not void, voidable, or valid. It is unenforceable. Good. Super proud of you on that one. What statute dictates which contracts must be in writing and which contracts do not need to be in writing? What do you guys think? What statute dictates what contracts need to be in writing and which ones do not need to be in writing? That is the statute of frauds. Which statute dictates time frames on these contracts? Which statute dictates time frames? Okay, so that would be the statute of limitations. Good. That would be the statute of limitations. Excellent job, guys. Okay. Now, why is this unenforceable and not void or voidable or things of that nature? Who knows why? Why is this unenforceable and not void or voidable? People get this confused a lot. How many of you guys used to get it confused? Like, what's the difference between unenforceable and void? They sound the same. All right? So, who knows the difference? Well, the difference is, when you talk about the statute of frauds or statute of limitations, what must be in writing and the different time frames do not apply to every contract. Okay? What makes something void or valid, that applies to every contract. It is by definition what a contract is. So, for example, that contract that must be in writing, whatever contract it may be, could still have the four essentials. There still could be agreement, consideration, lawful object, and capable parties. Okay? But what contract needs to be in writing for one item may not necessarily apply to another. Does everybody get that? That's when you get things that are enforceable or unenforceable. That's the key point I want to get across to you guys, is when you get an unenforceable, enforceable, they differ depending on the circumstance and the type of contract it is. Whereas valid, voidable, and void, those are by definition what makes a contract a contract. So if you don't have one of those, they're no contract at all. Does everybody get that? Hopefully everybody understands that difference. Okay, and that's the difference. So there are certain contracts that need to be in writing, certain contracts that don't, and if they need to be in writing or they're not, it's not void, it's unenforceable. Okay, because it's not void, it still has the four essentials. Has everybody got that? Did I clear that up for anybody? Was anybody confused about that before, but now kind of has a better grasp on it? I hope so. I hope that helped. Okay. Next question. If a person obtains a contract through duress, that contract is A, unenforceable, B, voidable, C, valid, or D, void. I'll read that again. If a person obtains a contract through duress, that contract is A, unenforceable, B, voidable, C, valid, or D, void. Okay, and the answer is voidable. And that's what we discussed, that you have the right to go through with it and the right to rescind. Hope you guys go to some open houses this weekend. Get out there. Start learning about the biz. A family rents a house from January 1st to June 30th. This is considered an A, tenancy at sufferance, B, periodic tenancy, C, estate for years, or D, tenancy at will. I'll read that again. A family rents a house from January 1st to June 30th. This is considered an A, tenancy at sufferance, B, periodic tenancy, C, estate for years, or D, tenancy and will. And the answer is estate for years. That is for a fixed period of time. That probably should have been in the property ownership category, so it's a little miscategorized, but you guys seem to be okay. That should not have been in the contract section. My bad. The law that requires real estate contracts to be in writing to be enforceable is the A, statute of frauds, B, parole evidence rule, C, law of descent and distribution, or D, statute of limitations. And the answer is A, statute of frauds. If you guys got that wrong, I'd cry because we went over that before. I'd be like, what? I'm a terrible teacher. Undue influence or duress applied to one party in a contract makes the contract A, voidable, B, invalid, C, void, or D, unenforceable. Undue influence or duress applied to one party to a contract makes the contract A, voidable, B, invalid, C, void, or D, unenforceable. And the answer is voidable. Good. All right, guys, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed it. I did a bunch of talking today. I know the questions weren't that hard today, but, you know, we got to get a little overview going. Make sure you are getting the questions of the day, that you signed up for our questions of the day, so that keeps you guys on track. Even if you know the answers to those questions that get emailed to you, it's important because it kind of is a reminder to study and keep going. And every once in a while, you may get a question emailed to you that you're like, that posed some information that I need to study more. So make sure you sign up for the question of the day. Obviously, make sure you're on our Facebook group, and definitely follow me on Instagram. I'm working hard to kind of make it a little more visually appealing with a nice blue theme. That Instagram is prep_agent. And if you want those questions today, you just sign up for them through our website. They get emailed to you. And with that being said, that's all. So thanks, guys. Have an amazing weekend. All right, talk to all of you soon.